got someone waiting in the waiting room. Please give a big, I don't know, say round of applause. That's probably not correct.
In your own house, quietly.
Yeah, in your own house quietly. If we could just a round of applause to the Honourable Duncan Webb. Hello.
Hey, how are you? Good to be here.
Kia ora, Duncan.
Good. Thanks for coming on.
No, all good.
How was getting back to work?
Yeah, it's tough sitting and listening. I've just come from chamber where they do all the debates, and it's tough sitting in there sometimes listening to the other side singing their praises. But we do our best. We grit our teeth and do our job and try to shine a light, as I see Chewie's doing right now.
Yes, our faces will, sporadically shine and not shine. Cool. Well, I'd love to have a chat with you about your role in the sort of chair of the subcommittee for the Treaty Principles Bill. Oh, Chewie's gone. He's decided he doesn't want to join us.
Yeah. I have that effect on people.
He's like, politics? Oh, no, this is not what I signed up for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you want to know? What do you want to know about the Treaty Principles stuff?
Oh, he's back. Oh, geez, he's back. Wow, okay. We'll just leave Chewie for a bit. I suppose for myself and a lot of people, it's the first time we've put through a submission for a bill, and it's getting a lot more coverage than I would say most bills have had in the past. Just a little bit more, even through to the some media covering the first day of oral submissions. So I guess what we would like to know from you is, what is the role of the Select Committee? What does this process look like? What are the impacts of our submissions and also the oral submissions on this?
Yeah, it's a tough question. This committee is, and I've been around for a wee while now, and this is quite different from any other committee I've sat on. I sat on the last one that came anywhere near this was the end of life choice, right? The euthanasia bill, where we had thousands and thousands of submissions, and we tried to hear them all, but it's an impossible task. And look, there's about 300,000 submissions, and certainly tens of thousands of those will be either very brief or kind of form submissions from lobby groups and what have you. But that means there's still hundreds of thousands of unique submissions, and we're humans. We can't actually manage all that information. So one of the tasks we've got is to kind of get some assistance there, but also to kind of pick out, partly from our own knowledge and our network's knowledge, what are those submissions that will really resonate, people who've really got something to say. And I kind of accept that that's a challenge, because Parliament is for everyone, not just for kind of the great and good who have got a reputation. And most of the time, anyone who wants to come and have their say on something will actually be able to do, either in person or like what I'm doing now online, have their actual say in Parliament. But because we've got 300,000 of them, I can't read them all. Certainly they can't all come and speak in front of the committee. So we're adopting a slightly different process, slightly more curated process. I guess the other thing to say is, this bill is an absolute piece of rubbish, and it's not going to pass, right? Which is really frustrating, because we're all working really hard and diligently to try and do our job as Select Committee members. But in the back of our minds, is this a total waste of time? On one hand, it is, because we know what's going to come of it. Whatever anyone says, no matter how articulate and persuasive they are, the bill is going to get voted down at the very next opportunity. But at the same time, I think it's important that we try to understand as far as we can what the genuine kind of thoughts and views of New Zealand are, so that when we do that, and when we report, because there'll be a written report that goes back to the whole Parliament, we try to capture the main themes and explain why this bill is a piece of rubbish.
Someone also echoing my question as well. Can you use AI to determine if the submission is in favour or not?
Look, that is such a good question. And a number of people have said, okay, so you've got 300 documents. Some of them are email, done online. Some of them are actually delivered in hard copy and they get scanned. Why don't you just use AI? And I can kind of see the attraction of it, but at the same time, I think a citizen has a right to have a submission read by an actual human being, right? Even if it's not a politician, even if it's an official in the Ministry of Justice or someone that the Ministry of Justice have contracted to help them read submissions, I think it's actually not okay. So I actually asked that question of whether will a human read submissions or will it be kind of machine coded? And the answer is there will be a human that reads them. So that's really expensive. That's the other thing about this whole exercise. We know it's going to cost at least $4 million, but we think it's going to cost much, much more than that because of the huge size of the operation that we're undertaking.
How have you found? I mean, you've only done 1 day, but how many days are you going to do oral submissions for?
Yeah, so we're doing 80 hours altogether, but because we're splitting up, each committee member will be doing 50 each, because we're going to do some with the whole committee. We're doing kind of the big hitters, if you like, although I don't really like that approach, but we're going to do the big hitters with the whole committee. Then we're splitting into 2 smaller committees, and those committees will each do 30 hours each. So that gives you an idea. I mean, it's basically it's more than a whole week's full-time work, right? Just listening to people.
Yeah. How do they actually choose the people that are on? Because on the committee, so there's obviously 2, as far as I understand, 2 subcommittees, and it's
2 subcommittees.
The
So
political spectrum.
It's like picking a soccer team at high school, right? No, well, I mean, the first thing to do was to pick some chairs, and James Meagher, who's the National Party member, who's the chair of the committee, he was always going to be a chair of one of the subcommittees. And then I suggested that maybe an opposition member should chair the other one. And I don't know if I did a smart thing there, because it ended up being me, right?
Well, then you do it, they say.
yeah, that's right. So it is. So it's me. But look, a bit of a chuckle, but actually, it's really it's an honour to do it. To be honest, chairing a select committee is a big job, and this is, it's the biggest question under discussion in New Zealand today. And so to be the person who, I mean, all I do is kind of manage the discussion and direct traffic, if you like, but that's still a really important task, and I'm really grateful to do it.
Well, speaking of leading the discussion, I have, oh look, Chewie's back, just in time for this. I have this wonderful video that your social media team put out of you absolutely slamming someone. I think that's the vibe I'm getting from this. I think people might appreciate this one. Hopefully you guys can hear it all right.
So how did the British Crown get the right to assert the authority of Parliament, which of course didn't happen until the 1850s, over the territories of New Zealand?
So, well, the British, we're really going into a history lesson here, but when the British were initially asked to intervene in New Zealand's affairs by the chiefs, and as a consequence, Busby was sent over as the resident. The British became involved in a governmental way in New Zealand, and then as a result,
I don't think you can answer that question. It's probably appropriate to give a question to another member.
I call
wow.
that slam dunk by Duncan. I feel it's
yeah, thanks for that. It has been used before, but I like it every time I hear it.
Props to your social media team for the dial-up sound as well.
Well, Georgie did that. She's very good. You picked it up. I don't do that stuff myself. I'm pretty much preoccupied with the actual politics. But look, that was a King's Counsel, right? So that's one of our most senior lawyers, and he's well known. He's also the lawyer who's trying to get tikanga taken out of the law school curriculum, right? So the law schools have all said we need new lawyers to understand the place of tikanga in the legal system, so that you can approach it in a knowledgeable way, or at least a basic knowledge. And he thought that was in some way, I don't know, wrong, and tried to review that decision. And it just frustrates me that people come to committee. He was obviously opposed. He's for the bill, so he wanted to see this treaty principles bills passed, and came with a totally fictitious framework about what the treaty was, how it occurred, and what its effect was. And I would have thought that one of our most senior lawyers would come prepared. So I asked him, he made an assertion about the sovereignty of Parliament. Now, in 1840, Parliament did not exist until 1853. Do your homework. It's so frustrating. So anyway, but it was a bit of a burn. And I just I do think it's important that if you're going to come and press your argument, do come prepared. Can I just say, look, I do want to treat submitters with respect, particularly because we get young people and people who've never submitted before, and I would never do that to someone who's, nervous and so on and so forth. But when you come with KC after your name and spout forth as if you are the font of all wisdom on it, expect to be challenged.
Yeah,
I do
sure.
like that he started his response to you by going, well, we would have to get into a history lesson there. Yes. Yes, because we're talking about a historical document.
You're right.
Yeah, it didn't happen yesterday. It's all good. Hey, I do have a couple of questions about this. I've seen, and please tell me if I'm wrong here, that there have been more submissions on this than Parliament would usually see in an entire year's worth of submissions. Is that accurate?
I think I've seen that stat, and it would. Look, I'm not going to vouch for it, but it certainly would not surprise me. I mean, we've been doing some, important legislation around courts that got 7 submissions, some legislation around sentencing, which I think got 120 submissions or something like that. They're the numbers you're usually dealing with. Every so often you get many. The conversion therapy, I think, was the last one that got a lot, like 100,000, but they are real standouts, right? So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all. And this is, I wouldn't say overwhelming, but we are creaking at the seams in terms of having to create a system to manage this, number of submissions.
And I guess following on from that, my other question, and apologies, is this has already been dealt with when I wasn't here. But with so many interested parties and organizations directing all of their followers to make submissions, how easy is it to tell when it's a copy-paste job, like a chain letter? Does that really stick out to you guys? Does it get the same sort of weighting as other submitters?
That's a really good point. And not just for this, for the treaty principles, because we get kind of stock submissions of one kind or another relatively frequently. Sometimes it's like a postcard. The Greens have used a postcard system where they've got a postcard and you write your thoughts on it and you send it in. All the little thoughts are unique, right? So in some ways it's prompted, it's a little bit constructed, but it's still someone's actual thoughts. If it's verbatim, then it's a little less weighty. The other one you get is a kind of pick and choose, where you pick paragraphs and then add one of your own. Again, it's orchestrated, so of course you're not going to give it the same weight. Some of the best submissions are just short and heartfelt and unique, and rather than constructed and kind of artificial, if you like. But at the same time, the fact that there's so many from the Green Party or so many from Hobson's Pledge, it's still relevant, right? That they've got that support base that they can marshal to have that say, whatever you like about their politics.
Yeah. No, good stuff.
I had a question and now it has disappeared, which is very helpful, isn't it?
While you're going into the brain cupboard there, Emily, we do have a couple of comments from our chat, if you'd like, Duncan.
Sure, let's go for it.
Can we please ask Duncan about the regulatory standards bill consultation?
Yes, thank you.
That was it.
Yes, that was actually it.
Look, thank you, YouTube user. That doesn't entirely surprise me. I know you had Kieran McAnulty on here and you threw that one at him, and he might not have said, I've got no idea, but I think at that time it hadn't quite hit the headlines. I'm actually our spokesperson on this. This is actually a more dangerous bill in some ways than the Treaty Principles Bill. The Treaty Principles Bill is a stunt, a ridiculous, expensive, and divisive stunt. The Regulatory Standards Bill sounds unbelievably boring, and at one level it is, right? But if you think what it does, it tinkers, or doesn't tinker, it does more than that. It changes the very way we make law. It's as important as fiddling with the electoral system. And what it does in particular is it puts David Seymour in charge of what it means for a law to be good. It lets him make the rules about what it means for laws to be good. And it says that things like individual freedoms and property rights should trump things like community interests and the environment, right? So that's how deep it goes. It goes to the very bedrock of how we do law. Now, at the moment, it's not even a bill. He did a consultation on it. But this is a classic example, and you've got me going now. This is a classic example of Christopher Luxon doing a negotiation for the coalition and thinking, he just wants to have it. We will agree for it to go to first reading. What could possibly go wrong? He just wants a regulatory standards bill. That doesn't sound too bad. How could that be a bad thing? And he has been totally hoodwinked by the ACT Party into a absolute, one, racist agenda, two, right-wing libertarian baking in property rights agenda. It's frightening. We've really got to watch out for that. So that'll be, we get submission fatigue. We get activism fatigue. But that's the next big thing on the horizon. I know Jane Kelsey's spoken out about it, and a lot of other people, and Salmond, in fact, has spoken about it as well, and I really respect her views.
And so the difference there with it being a discussion document, and I noticed a few people were going, well, hang on, I'm submitting on both of these things. Why is the submission process so different? That's why it's not a bill yet. It's just discussing going to be a bill.
Well, so one of the things, and look, the other kind of Trojan horse aspect of this is that good regulation is a good thing, right? We all want our laws to be readable, to make sense, to be effective, and all of those things. So that half of it is, unobjectionable. And so what he's doing here is actually making sure he follows good lawmaking process for his own bill, because you should always talk about something as early as you can so you can get the wrinkles out of it. The danger here is, and this is the third or fourth time Parliament's looked at this question, and every other time it's been thrown out, right? But the real challenge here is that we make sure that it doesn't just kind of slip under the radar as kind of good regulatory practice when it's not. It's actually, it really is a constitutional shift.
Right. Well, we're definitely going to make sure we point people at that wherever possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think there was certainly an aspect of it almost hiding behind the coattails of this this submissions process.
Well, I saw actually that the submissions on the regulatory standards opened on 13 November, and on 14 November we had the first reading of the Treaty Principles Bill. So it was never going to make the news, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
On purpose, I wonder. Someone in the chat mentioned that you did a really good article on the RSB on your LinkedIn page. So if anyone wants to go, and
wow, you guys are so good. It's
very comprehensive.
I don't even need to do any promotional work. Oh, look, it's got pictures. That's John Stuart Mill.
Yeah, I know. So someone pointed it out. Thank you. Love it. Love to see it. Oh, we don't want to keep you forever, even though I'm pretty sure you'd love to chat about this forever.
Oh, look, I could. I absolutely could. But it's really
which is
good
good.
to be on. And you're having Barbara Edmonds. Did I hear a rumor that you're having Barbara Edmonds on?
Yeah, if you're here for another 10
absolutely.
minutes, yeah, you could have a
She's
multiple chat.
awesome. I hope you're
She
much
is.
tougher on her. She's, you know, I'm just a little Billy Goat scruff, if you know the story.
No, not at all. I do have one question. Oh, I have a question, but is yours more serious? There,
I was
Chewie?
just going to make a quick comment. Is
Yeah.
that article that you mentioned there that's posted up on LinkedIn, which is of course
Yes.
the worst social media out there.
Oh, come on!
Although
No,
there's
it's
not.
not.
There's a lot of competition for the worst social media. But Duncan, you actually have presence on the best social media platform,
You
Blue
do.
Sky, as well. So
Yeah,
maybe you should put a post
Well,
up
I've
there.
got into a bit of trouble on the old X, right? I don't know if you follow it,
Oh,
but
good. You're in good company.
I made the news. I made the news for something I said on there. So, and you never want to
good.
do that. And then my good friend Sarah Pallett said you've got to go to Blue Sky. And so I'm
Good.
not a huge kind of, I don't know, what do you call it? It's not a tweet on Blue Sky, is it? What is it?
A skeet?
Someone told me.
Is
Yes,
that what
and
you're
that's
saying?
dreadful, and I'm never calling it that.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
a skeet.
So,
I think
but I'm
that's
not a big
I
one
think
for
that's
it.
the meme. Is the
Yeah,
skeet.
yeah. But LinkedIn, I used it because it's a long article, right? You've got to be a dweeb to read it. And there's a lot of dweebs on LinkedIn.
And there's a lot of dweebs in our chat apparently too, which is great. Speaking of dweebs, my last question to you, because I know that Chewie's been on the hunt for comment. James Meager, you seem to be the closest person to us. Our what do you call it? 2 degrees of separation. Being our new minister for the South Island, I think it was.
Yeah.
Any thoughts? Any thoughts? Would you reckon he would come on the show?
Poor bastard. Yeah.
I mean, what a poison chalice. What's his job? Go and tell the people of Dunedin they're not getting a hospital, and go through Nelson on the way. Tell them they're not getting a whole hospital either. And also stopping at Woodend where they're not bypass hasn't been built yet. You know, it's like, what's his job? Now he's an articulate guy. Don't get me wrong. I don't like, upselling a National Party MP, but he's articulate and he'll spin it well. You know, he's going to be an advocate. But there's no wins for him there because he's got no money. There's no funding. They might have well have called him the Lord of the South Island because it's entirely titular. You know, so good luck to that. But
well.
I'm
up to email number 5 asking him to come on the show. We'd love to talk to him about it. So, if you are passing him on the hallway, just nudge him our way.
Yeah,
I'll be seeing him at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning in select committee. I will put it to him.
Yeah,
I will tell him that you're
we'll be nice. We'll be nice. He's fresh meat. We'll be nice. He hasn't done anything wrong yet.
I'd say it's just imagine that you're Gary Judd and he's Gary Judd and you're Duncan Webb on select committee. They don't eviscerate you at all.
You can even tell him he would be the first national MP to appear on BHN.
Do you think you might have been blacklisted by the National Party?
No.
Maybe.
Have you had
asking the right questions?
Have you had any ACT Party MPs on?
We have not.
Why not? No. They're very pro free speech.
It rhymes. No, we've completed our bingo card of left coalition leaders. They've all been on. We're working our way through the Labour Party. It's like, yes, we're on the left, but as many shows say, we are happy to criticise Labour when we think they're wrong. We're happy to criticise Greens when they get it wrong. We would love to extend that ability to National. We would love them to talk to our listeners and try and sell what they're selling.
Well, James is the minister.
They don't want to take the opportunity.
Like a couple of young people.
Oh, stop it!
It's half true.
Stop it!
No comment.
Flattery.
Well, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it. And as someone in your electorate, I think that's what they call it, electorate. I really appreciate the work that you do for Christchurch. And
awesome.
Yeah,
thanks.
You've been doing some good work for us.
Good to be here.
Appreciate it. Yeah, cool. Well, we're going to go from one to the other. So we'll catch you.
All right.
Thanks for coming on.
See you later.
Debbie and Duncan, thank you.